Hearing Ranvir's words, Dadi got happy and said, "Okay son, get ready early tomorrow morning, we will leave early. We will make all the preparations in advance." Mahi agreed to Dadi's words. After some time, Mahi and Ranvir both returned home. Mahi set the alarm for 5 in the morning. And as soon as the alarm rang, they got up quickly and got ready. She woke up Ranvir many times. But instead of getting up, Ranvir pulled Mahi. And he put his hand on her waist and hid his mouth in her neck and went to sleep. Mahi tried a lot to remove Ranvir's heavy hand from her waist. But she could not remove it. Mahi got irritated and said, "Ranvir, now get up, we are getting late." Ranvir said to Mahi, "A little more time." She was liking the sweet smell coming from Mahi. She was liking it a lot. If she could, she would have kept him in her arms all day long. Mahi said a little angrily, "No, get up right now." After listening to Mahi, Ranvir opened his eyes and saw her. She was staring at him with a little anger. As soon as Ranvir started going to kiss her, Mahi turned her face to the other side and said, "Don't even think, we have to go to worship. Now get ready quickly." Saying this, she pushed Ranvir and got up from the bed and started fixing her clothes. Ranvir looked at Mahi and got up from the bed. In a while, Ranvir, Mahi, Kanika and their grandmother left for the temple with their mother-in-law. The temple was built on the banks of the river Shipra. Grandmother got the ornaments brought with her from Mahi's hands to the priest. The priest performed the prayer at the hands of Ranvir and Mahi. And said while moving the vermilion towards Ranvir, "Son, fill this in your wife's forehead." Ranvir took a pinch of vermilion and filled it in Mahi's forehead. Then both of them stood up and blessed the priest. The priest said while blessing, "Mother Gauri, keep your couple together." After a while, they left for home. Ranvir left Kanika and grandmother at their home. As soon as they left, Ranvir asked Mahi, "Now tell me, where do we have to go?" Mahi said while thinking something, "First of all, let's go to the ghat, where I like to go every morning. After the worship, I used to sit there and watch the rising sun in the morning. And the priest used to come there often looking for me. Because he knew that Mahi would meet there early in the morning." Saying this, Mahi was happy in her old memories. Ranvir moved the car ahead and in a while they reached the ghat. Even now, the morning glow was spread all over. The sound of the bells coming from the temple, the sound of the aarti, and people bathing on one side of the ghat. Some people were going towards the temple chanting Om Namah Shivaya. The atmosphere there was very devout. Mahi held Ranvir's hand and took him a little far, where only a few people were present. Then Mahi left Ranvir's hand and started climbing the stairs quickly. Ranvir said while following her, "Mahi, be careful, don't fall anywhere." Mahi said while turning back, "Ranvir, we know this place and this place very well. So there is no question of falling here." Saying this, she sat on the lower stairs and pointed at Ranvir coming behind her to come to her. Ranvir came to her and sat down. Then Mahi put her head on her shoulder and started looking at the rising sun. The view there was really very beautiful. The river Shubra flowing in front, the red moon spreading in the sky, and the rising sun. There was a different peace in the atmosphere there. This place was also making Ranvir very comfortable. Mahi also put her head on Ranvir's shoulder and said, "Ranvir, do you know? When I used to live here, I used to come and sit here every morning. Coming here, I felt like sleeping with my mother. In the gentle breeze here, I used to feel the touch of my mother's cradle." Then I stopped for a while and looked at Ranvir and asked, "Have you ever come to Ujjain before?" Ranvir looked in front and said, "No, I have never come here before. Yes, grandmothers and mothers have come here." Then looking at Mahi, he said, "I really liked coming here. There is a different peace in the air here. How much love is there in the hearts of the people here? There is a closeness. It doesn't seem like we have met them for the first time." Mahi was listening to Ranvir's words and looking at the rising sun. The radiant sun was falling on Mahi's face, which was making her beautiful face even more beautiful. Ranbir was impressed by the gentle smile on Mahi's lips. His heart was saying, Mahi, you have entered such a place where there is purity in every corner. Maybe that's why you are so innocent and pure. You don't have any deceit inside you. Your words forced a person like me to fall in love. That's when he lost his mind when he heard Mahi's voice. Now let's go, I have to eat something. There are rats running on my back. Hearing this, Ranbir stood up. Then the two went to a restaurant for breakfast. And then left for home. Ranbir was driving the car. Mahi was telling him about her childhood. Then he shouted, Ranbir, stop the car in front of the garden. Ranbir turned the car aside and asked Mahi, what is here that you asked to stop the car? Mahi came out and said, there is a guava garden there from where I have plucked a lot of guavas and eaten them. That too by theft. Before Ranbir could say anything, Mahi ran there. Ranbir put his hand on his waist and said loudly, Mahi, what is the need to steal guavas? We can buy and eat them. Mahi turned around and said, the fun in stealing guavas and eating them, where is the fun in buying and eating them? Saying this, she told Ranbir to stop there. You stay there, I'll be right back. Saying this, she tied her dupatta on her waist and climbed the gate and jumped to the other side. Ranbir was surprised to see her action. Although the gate was not too big, but it was not too small either. As soon as Mahi left, Ranbir also climbed the gate and went inside. Some children were also present inside, who had guavas in their hands. The way Mahi was talking to them, Ranbir understood that all this is Mahi's monkey army. As soon as Ranbir came, all the children surrounded him and said to him staring from top to bottom, Wow Mahi Didi, brother-in-law is like a hero. Brother-in-law, have you come here to steal guavas? A little girl said. Ranbir looked at Mahi and said, No son, I have come to take your sister. Mahi held her hand and said, Oh, how come? I haven't broken any guavas yet. Yes brother-in-law, Didi same is very good. Didi used to give us a lot of guavas. Another little girl said. Then Ranbir saw everyone and said, What if the owner of this garden comes? That little girl said, Then we will all run away. But we will take a lot of guavas with us. Mahi said to everyone in silence, You all be quiet and pay attention to breaking the guavas. Otherwise, uncle will come with a stick. After this, Mahi put a mark on the guavas on the tree one by one. His aim was very accurate. Ranbir was surprised to see the falling guava. When Ranbir was looking at the guava, he would sometimes aim at Mahi. The children were happily picking up the fallen guavas. Mahi broke all these guavas in a short while. Then a child said to Ranbir, Brother-in-law, you also break guavas for us. Mahi said while holding the guava in Ranbir's hand, Yes, take this guava and aim. Ranbir has shot a lot of guns, but has never shot a guava. So he was looking at the guava with strange eyes. Mahi looked at him and said, What happened? Aim at it. Ranbir put the guava back in Mahi's hand and said, I don't know how to shoot. Now all the children were looking at Ranbir as if he had committed a big crime. When Ranbir looked at the children like this, he said, Why are you all looking at me like this? Come on, pick up your guavas and get going. Then Ranbir thought to himself, What is the need to learn to shoot? Will I kill my enemies with a gun or with a guava? All the children quickly picked up the guava and said while leaving, Sister, give brother-in-law the training. Saying this, he ran away from there. Ranbir said while thinking in his mind, By the way, how will the underworld king feel about killing his enemies with a guava instead of a gun? Then Mahi said while spreading her hand, Okay, I will teach you. Now all of you go carefully. Then Mahi saw Ranbir and quickly started picking up her guavas. Ranbir looked at her and said, You have this talent too. Today I came to know. Mahi had filled a lot of guavas in her dupatta. Ranbir wiped off the dirt and sweat on her face with a handkerchief and said while following her ears with his fingers, Now let's go home. We have to leave for Indore by evening. Mahi nodded her head and started moving towards the back gate. Ranbir grabbed her arm and said, "Not from there, but from the main gate." Saying this, he started taking her to the main gate. Mahi said, "There must be uncle there. He will scold us." Ranbir said, "No one will scold. I am there." The gardener was reading the newspaper sitting near the gate. When he saw Ranbir and Mahi, he stood up and asked in surprise, "How did you come in?" Ranbir said to him, "We wanted to steal some guavas from your garden. That's why we climbed the back gate and came in. Now keep this money and open the gate." The gardener saw a lot of money in his hand and quietly opened the gate. Ranbir took Mahi and went out. The gardener saw the money and said, "When you wanted to steal guavas, why did you give so much money?" "It's okay. I got a lot of profit." From there, Ranbir and Mahi came home. They had lunch at Kanika's house. Because when both were on the way, Kanika called them and told them to come to her house and have lunch. Even today, Jayant did not come in front of Ranbir. After coming home, Mahi sat on the sofa and Ranbir also laid down on Mahi's lap. Mahi was slowly combing Ranbir's hair. Ranbir thought for a while and said, "Mahi, what was your room in this house? You didn't show me." Actually, the room where Mahi and Ranbir were staying was a guest room and Mahi's room was on the second floor. Mahi was shocked and said, "Yes, I didn't show you my room. Come on, today I will show you my room." Hearing Mahi, Ranbir stood up and Mahi also stood up and took him to her room which was on the second floor. Mahi opened the door of her room and pointed at Ranbir to come inside. Mahi's room was neither too big nor too small, but it was very cute. To know what will happen next, keep listening to this story only on Love Pulse Diaries. There was a big balcony in front of Mahi's room, where there were a lot of plants which had dried up due to lack of water. Ranveer sat on the bed and said, Nice." Then he looked at a photo on the wall, in which Mahi was wearing a lehenga. The photo was of her school's annual function, in which Mahi had participated. Ranveer took that photo in his hand, and Ranveer couldn't stop himself from smiling. Mahi looked so beautiful in this photo. Then he looked at another photo, which was of Mahi's mother. Ranveer looked at that photo and said, "You look exactly like your mother, Mahi." Mahi said happily, "I told you that I look exactly like my mother." Ranveer smiled and said, "Then my daughter should also look exactly like you. Absolutely cute." Saying this, Ranveer pinched his cheeks. Mahi said while thinking something, "And what if it is a boy?" Ranveer said with great attitude, "Then he will be like me, tall and handsome, who will have a line of girls in front and behind." Mahi said while squinting her eyebrows, "You will spoil my son. I can see that. Don't you dare teach all this to my innocent son. Don't you dare teach all this to my innocent son. Line of girls." Ranveer smiled and said, "Just wait and watch, he will be just like me." Mahi pinched Ranveer's chest and said, "My son will be like me, not like you. Otherwise, he will trouble me. Grandma told me that you were very naughty in your childhood." Ranveer held Mahi by her waist and brought her close to him. And kissed her on her neck and said, "If my son troubles you, then I will beat him up." "Okay." Mahi said while staring at Ranveer in anger, "You touch my son and show him that you will beat up my innocent son." Ranveer looked at Mahi and said, "Our son has not come into this world yet, and you are already taking his favor." Then he said with a mischievous smile, "Let's plan the baby first, then we will see later who he will go to. But for that, we will have to try now." Saying this, he picked up Mahi in his arms and started taking her to the bed. Mahi understood his intentions, so she started trying to get off his lap. Mahi swore and said, "Ranveer, leave me. Anna, I'm still small. How can I have a baby now?" Ranveer threw Mahi on the bed and started opening the button of his shirt. Mahi sat down and got down from the other side and pointed her finger at him and said, "You are so smart, you were trying to trap me in your talks, but I am not going to get trapped in your talks." Saying this, Mahi started running away from there. As soon as Ranvir came towards him, Mahi sat down from there and ran away and said with a smile, "It is not that easy to catch me." But Ranvir was also not comfortable. He quickly picked up Mahi from his waist and fell on the bed. Then he turned Mahi and put her down. Mahi tried to keep her away, then Ranvir held both his hands and said while pressing on the bed, "What did you think? Can you escape from me? No baby, it is not that easy." Saying this, as soon as he started touching Mahi's soft lips with his lips, the doorbell rang. Ranvir closed his eyes tightly and said, "Oh man, who has come now?" Mahi laughed at Ranvir's face. She said with great difficulty while controlling her laughter, "Will there be someone to save me from you?" Ranvir stared at her and said, "I will go home and see you, but not for now." Saying this, he kissed Mahi on the lips and got up from the bed. Ranvir came down and opened the door. Mahi also followed him. Kanika, Dadi and Rashi were standing at the gate. Rashi came and hugged Mahi. Mahi asked everyone to come inside, so everyone came inside and sat on the sofa. Dadi gestured to Kanika, so Kanika gave the bags of things she had brought with her to Mahi and said, "Laro, these are some gifts from us for you and Nandvi." Mahi looked towards Ranvir and then said to Kanika, "Bhabhi, what was the need for this?" "It is enough for us," Dadi said. "Why?" "You have come for the first time after marriage. This is your right. Keep it as our blessing." Then Dadi put her hand on Mahi's head and said, "Next time come early to meet us, and then you should also have a baby in your lap." Hearing Dadi's words, Ranvir said, "Yes Dadi, I will try my best." Hearing Ranvir's words, Kanika lowered her head and started controlling her laughter. Mahi looked at Ranvir and Ranvir said, "Yes, I mean I will bring Mahi soon to meet you all." Rashi said, "Mahi, keep talking on the phone." Hearing Rashi's words, Mahi nodded her head and said yes. After some time, everyone started talking to each other. Then Kanika left with Dadi. Ranvir and Mahi left for Indore in the evening. Here in Indore, Vedant was having tea at Priya's house. But his eyes were on Priya, who was sitting in front of him. Looking at her face, it seemed like it was a punishment for him to sit here. If his mother was not here, Priya would have abused Vedant a lot. Priya's mother said to Vedant, "Son, you are not taking anything." Vedant said, "Oh auntie, I will take it. Why should I be ashamed of you? You are like family to me." Priya was staring at Vedant and he was thinking, what is going on? What is going on in his mind? He had to find out. Then he looked at his mother and said, "First I have to get my mother out of here. If I say anything to this psycho in front of her, she will wash me here." Then Priya said to her mother, "Mother, won't you feed your special guest the theplas of your hand that you made today?" After hearing Priya's words, his mother remembered something and said, "Oh yes, I will get it right now." Saying this, he went towards the kitchen. His mother had to go and Priya went to Vedant and pointed her finger and said, "Tell me the truth, what is going on in your mind? Why have you come here? Tell me quickly, or else your dead body will go from here." Vedant stared at him with strange eyes. Then he took a sip of tea and said, "You don't get fits, right? Because this is what you do." Priya stared at him angrily and as soon as she came to hold his collar, she heard her mother's voice. "What are you doing?" Priya's hand stopped there in the air. Then she started acting. Priya's mother and Vedant were both looking at her as if they were looking at a strange creature. Priya looked at her mother and said, "Mother, that mosquito has become too much, that's why I was hitting it. What if it bites your beloved guest and he dies of dengue or malaria?" After hearing this, Vedant coughed. He coughed and said, "Why does this girl always want to kill me?" Then Priya sat on the sofa and stared at Vedant and said, "What was the need for mother to come so soon? I would have killed her right now and found out what was going on in her crazy mind and why did she come here?" Vedant smiled at Priya and picked up the biscuit and said, "Don't worry, I will find out right now what is going on in my mind, my wild cat." Then Vedant smiled and said, "By the way, auntie, you are very sweet." Priya's mother was happy and said, "Thank you, son. By the way, Everyone says Priya opened her eyes and looked at her mother and said, "What can I praise this mother?" Vedant said again, "By the way, your daughters have gone to you." Priya's mother said, "You are right, son. My elder daughter has gone to me. That's why she got married in a very good family. And my daughter?" By saying this, he looked at Priya as if she was a walking trouble. "I don't know who she has gone to. Not a single habit has gone to me. Wherever she goes, she destroys everything. She has not gone to me at all." Priya opened her eyes and was looking at her mother. Vedant was enjoying seeing Priya's face. Then his mother, being a little sad, said, "If we get a good boy for her, then our worries will get over." Vedant looked at Priya and very innocently said to his mother, "My mother is also very worried about my marriage." Hearing Vedant's words, Priya's mother smiled with hope. At the same time, Priya's mother said with a little excitement, "Son, by the way, what do you do? By the way, you also bring your parents home once. I want to meet them." Priya opened her eyes and started looking at Vedant and her mother. Then she said to herself, "What is going on here? Priya, do something quickly. Otherwise, right now, Mom will get you married to this psycho and throw you out of this house." Thinking this, Priya shouted and stood up. "Mom!" Priya's mother and Vedant were both shocked by her voice. Priya shouted and said, "Mom, what are you doing? And which destruction am I causing? You have got a very decent daughter, so you don't value me. You do bad things as if I am your stepdaughter. Now even I have started doubting. Let Dad come. Today I decide that I am your real daughter. I am your real daughter. Did you bring me from the stairs of the temple? And why do you want to meet Vedant's parents? Look, whatever is going on in your mind, put a break here. Because nothing like this is going to happen. Did you understand?" Saying this, she looked at Vedant with a warning look and started going towards the main gate. Her mother shouted from behind and said, "Where are you going now?" Priya said without turning back, "I am going to find my real parents." Saying this, as soon as she moved forward, her head hit the door. Priya shouted loudly, "Mom, I am dead." As soon as Priya's head hit the door, where Vedant closed his eyes tightly, Priya's mother hit her head. Priya said, "No one needs to follow me. I will take care of myself." Saying this, she went out. Vedant stood up and said, "I will go and see if he breaks himself again." Priya's mother said, "Yes, son, go quickly. This girl does not know what happens sometimes." Vedant also left the house quickly. Priya's mother said to herself, "What happens to her these days? She starts behaving strangely." Priya came out in anger and saw Vedant's car parked in front of her. In anger, she kicked the tire of her car. The car was not damaged, but Priya's leg was injured. Will Priya's mother get Priya married to Vedant? To know more, keep listening to this story only on Lovepulse Diaries. Priya came out of the house in a fit of rage. She saw Vedant's car parked in front of her. She hit the tire of his car with a kick. The car was fine, but her leg was injured. She sat there holding her leg and said in tears, "Oh, Mom, I am hurt again." Then she saw someone's shoes in front of her. She looked up with her eyes full of tears. Vedant, who was standing in front of her, was looking at her with his hands tied. Priya said in tears, "You have come to see my destruction. You must be very happy." Vedant bowed down and picked her up in his lap and said, "Don't you forget to say a dialogue even in a broken state?" Priya hit her on the chest and said, "It's all because of you. Leave me." Vedant looked at her and said, "If I leave you, my head has already broken. You have just broken your leg. If you fall down, your back will also break. Should I leave you?" Hearing Vedant's threat, Priya grabbed him tightly and said in fear, "No, don't make me fall. I am already in a lot of pain." Priya's action made Vedant smile. He made him sit in the driver's seat. Priya asked, "Where are you taking me?" Vedant looked at her and said, "To the doctor." And then he started the car and left. Priya was still bowing her head, because she was in a lot of pain in her leg. In excitement, she herself kicked the tire very hard. Vedant looked at Priya and then looked in front and said, "Did you see me in the tire who kicked so hard?" Priya said yes, shaking her head. "Yes, that's why I hit so hard. But how did I know that I would get hurt?" Vedant said while shaking his head, "Crazy girl." In a while, his car stopped in front of the hospital. Vedant came out of the car and opened the door next to Priya's and picked her up in his lap. Then he closed the door and went ahead. The doctor examined Priya's leg and said, "There is no fracture in her leg. I will prescribe some medicines so that the swelling in the leg gets better soon. And I will also give you an injection." After hearing the name of the injection, Priya lost her mind. Priya pulled Vedant's shirt and asked him, "Did he just say injection?" Vedant understood from Priya's face that he is afraid of injections. He said while relaxing her, "Yes, it's just a small injection. You won't even know?" At the same time, Priya's eyes were on the doctor in front of her, who was filling medicine in the injection. As soon as he started coming to Priya after filling the medicine, Priya grabbed Vedant tightly and said while crying, "I don't want to get an injection. Get it away from me." The doctor looked at Priya with strange eyes and said, "Even children don't cry so loudly, like this madam is crying." Vedant held Priya tightly in his arms and indicated to the doctor to give the injection. The doctor nodded and put the injection in Priya's arms. Priya said with her eyes closed, "Did you get it?" Vedant indicated to the doctor and said to Priya, "No, I didn't get it yet." Vedant was not in the mood to leave Priya at that time. He sat hugging Priya. Gradually, he bent down towards Priya's neck and began to absorb the foul smell coming from it. Priya asked again, "Did you get it now?" Vedant said in a hoarse voice, "Not now, just a little while more." Saying this, he began to kiss Priya on the neck. When Priya felt Vedant's action, she opened her eyes. She felt that there was no one in the room other than her and Vedant. Seeing this, she was very angry that Vedant has been making her a fool for a long time. She pushed Vedant hard, which took Vedant 2 steps back. When he looked at Priya, who was staring at him with anger, he started coming back to her. Priya shouted and said, "Liar, you were making me a fool. You wanted to take advantage of me." Vedant came to her and bowed down to her and put both his hands in front of her. Then he began to see in her red eyes, which had dried up crying. Her nose was also red with tears. And Priya was looking very cute at that time. Vedant came closer to her. Priya bowed back and began to look at Vedant with her big eyes. Vedant said with a mischievous laugh, "You yourself made me a fool, not me. And you are saying that I am taking advantage. Now if you are so close to me, how will I be able to control myself? After all, I am a man. I will be swayed by the scent of your body." Vedant said the last line in a very seductive tone. With this, he went very close to Priya's face. Priya's face was completely red with shame. Vedant's eyes were fixed on Priya's lips like cherries. Seeing this, he was feeling a different thirst. Before he could hide his lips from his lips, Priya turned her face to the other side. But Vedant also insisted. He held Priya's cheeks and turned her face towards himself. And began to kiss her lips hard. Priya was trying to push him away. But Vedant took both his hands in his hand. And holding his head from behind, began to kiss him with passion. Priya was so angry with Vedant that she wanted to break his head right now. She bit Vedant's lips with anger. Vedant stopped for a while. But he still didn't get away from Priya's lips. But Priya's actions definitely made a devil's smile on his lips. Now he was not going to leave her like this. He began to kiss Priya again. But this time, his kiss was very deep and wild. Priya began to move her hands and feet to get rid of him. But she was not able to get Vedant away from her. Finally, she lost her patience and stopped resisting. Vedant also left her after complete satisfaction. He was now separated from Priya, taking a deep breath and looking at her. Seeing Priya's angry red face, he jokingly waved his thumb on his lips. And then said, "My wild cat." Priya looked at him and said, "I know what you are trying to do. But I will never marry you. So stop thinking about this in my mother's mind." Vedant held his cheeks tightly and said while looking into his eyes, "You will marry me. And when, I will decide that. Because I have decided to marry you. I have given you only 2 years to prepare yourself for this marriage. But if you don't stop doing this, I won't even give you 2 days." Saying this, he quickly let go of Priya's cheeks and turned towards her. He was very angry with Priya's words at this time. He began to try to control his anger. Hearing his words, tears began to fall in Priya's eyes. And she began to bow her head and cry. When Vedant heard Priya crying, he turned around and looked at her. He came back and sat next to her. And he filled his face with his hands and raised his face. Priya's eyes turned red due to crying. She began to cry looking at Vedant. So Vedant asked lovingly, "Have I hurt you somewhere?" Priya said while crying, "First of all, I have been hurt so much. And on top of that, you are scaring me with your words." After hearing Priya's words, Vedant opened his eyes. Then he took a deep breath and hugged her. Then he shook her head and said, "Why don't you understand my emotions? Why do you make me so angry?" Then he put his face in front of him and looked into her eyes and said, "I won't lie to you. Many girls came and went in my life. But my heart beats only for you. What I feel for you, I have never felt for anyone else. I want to spend the rest of my life with you." Saying this, he put his lips on Priya's lips. Priya was still lost in her thoughts. Today, for the first time, a boy expressed his love to her. But as soon as he felt the touch of Vedant's lips on his lips, his eyes closed automatically. This time, Vedant's kiss was very soft. Priya also did not oppose him this time. She closed her eyes and felt Vedant's kiss. After a while, he moved away from Priya. Then Priya's face turned completely red. And she still closed her eyes. Vedant was looking at her ashamed red face. Looking at him, a smile appeared on his lips. He moved forward and kissed her forehead. As soon as Vedant kissed her, Priya opened her eyes. Then as soon as she met Vedant, she started looking here and there. Today, she was feeling very shy in front of Vedant. And Vedant also understood from her behavior what she was feeling. He said to lighten the atmosphere, "This shyness does not suit you. You look good when you swing like a wild cat." Priya said with a face, "I am not feeling shy. And you said that until I become 21 years old, you will not marry me. Then why were you talking to my mother like this? You don't know. My mother wants to throw me out of the house as soon as possible. Although I don't do anything. I always stay calm. Still, people don't value decency." Vedant looked at her in amazement and said, "Priya, I have seen you. You are a walking distraction. You create a ruckus wherever you go. So, don't be in this misunderstanding that you are in the category of decency. And as far as putting the marriage in your mother's mind, I was just reassuring her that I am ready to take your trouble on my head. Because no one can tolerate it except me." Priya felt like beating Vedant right now. She picked up the pillow from the bed and said while hitting him, "I will create destruction in your life if you trouble me more." Vedant started trying to save himself from the pillow while laughing. After a while, Vedant left him at his house. Kapoor Mansion. Outside Kapoor Mansion, Samira was taking a parcel from a courier. There was a tension on her face. She was looking around again and again as if she wanted to escape from someone's eyes. Before Samira could come in with the parcel, Vedant's car came in through the gate. Seeing this, Samira's face started showing signs of trouble. She wanted to go inside quickly. But before she could go inside, Vedant stopped her by calling her from behind. "What is in the parcel that Samira is hiding?" To find out, keep listening to this story only on Love Pulse Diaries.